welcome back to the channel.
Shalom, family.
We're going to be broadcasting again. Another very important topic we broadcasted earlier on our 27th wedding anniversary. That's what we are celebrating today, but this broadcast is quite a bit different than that.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about some very serious situations going on in the Black community, and we're going to be talking about a project that we are doing in response to that. We are basically declaring code red and code blue in the Black community.
Yes.
Many of you understand what those mean in hospital terms. Watchman used to work in hospital, so I'm going to let him expound on those really quick.
Yeah, usually when you hear code red in the hospital, code blue usually means that there's a child that's being born, and code red usually means something like cardiac arrest in the hospital. You know, and that's pretty much it. So.
Right. In other senses of the word, code red and code blue indicates a medical emergency such as cardiac arrest, like Watchman said, and code red could indicate fire and smoke. Okay, so there are a number of different things as it relates to the world. You know, they have said there's been a code red declared on planet Earth because of some of the dramatic things that are happening. And so, but what we're going to do, we're going to apply that all to the Black community.
Right.
In a spiritual sense, we are at a very bad situation in the Black community.
Yes.
Sickness, death, disease, poverty. And a lot of it stems from what we call the curse of generational curses.
Yes.
Very much alive and operating in the so-called Black community. And it's frightening, y'all. Very frightening, what we're looking at. And so trying to understand all of this, many of us over the years have been talking about what's going on in the Black community and trying to deal with what's going on in the Black community as well.
Exactly.
And so this is what we are going to be doing. And I want to just kind of introduce the topic to you. Many of you know that we are working on a project. It's actually a book project. And it is Black Boy Kings, Rulers, Warriors, and Nobles. Okay? And so one thing we need to understand is that the men are the head.
That's right.
Okay? And our young boys, they are going to be the heads of the future.
Yes.
The heads of the future. So what we put into them now is going to make a big difference in how the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years are going to look like.
Exactly.
You see.
So we got to put time into our youth, right? To our young men, young boys, while they're boys, so that they can grow up and be men. So otherwise we got to raise men.
Exactly.
Right? So it's hard to raise a man or to raise a young boy into a man if there's no man around. You know, we you know, I listen to some of the comments sometimes, like men expect these women to raise these boys into men. That's a hard job. Now, she can do it with the help of Yahuwah if she's filled with the Ruach. You know, of course she can do it if she's filled with the Ruach, but it's still a hard task for her to try to raise him, to raise this young man, this young boy into a grown man, you know. And so this is why we see a lot of the dysfunction that we do among the youth, among the young Black males, you know, because they didn't get that proper raising. You understand? And so this is why we decided to come up with such this movement. Actually, is what I want to call this a movement. We're trying to make a difference here in teaching these and educating these young Black people, young Black men, you know.
One thing I wanted to point it out, and I spoke about this before, and I talk about it often to whoever will listen, because it was a big concern of mine as a mother of young men, of sons.
Yes.
One day, two of our youngest sons, they were out with Watchman and I, And we were in a place of business, and as we were going through the checkout line, like I told y'all, I'm very observant. I'm always paying attention to what's going on around me. I'm paying attention to the people around me. I'm looking at their faces. I'm looking at their movements, their gestures. And that's just something I do. I look at people. I watch. And, as I'm standing there, I'm looking at our young sons in line. They were checking out behind us, with the things that they were purchasing. And I noticed behind them was an elderly white male. And as he was looking at our sons, the look on his face and in his eyes was a look of, I'm just going to call it what it is, y'all, pure hatred.
Yeah.
And so me as a mother of these sons, I know what we've put in them, right? I know what kind of young men these are. I'm not going to be one of those mothers that sit back and pretend if my sons are not up to par and they're out here in the streets doing all kinds of things. I'm not going to defend that. But I know what we put in our sons. These are some very kind, Yah-fearing young men, right? And so I'm watching this man as he's looking at my sons like this. And I'm looking at him like this. You see? And that was a great concern of mine. I said to myself, there are literally people out here who have already summed up young black males before they even open their mouth, before they even make a movement, before they do one thing, before they even have a conversation with these young men. They've already summed them up in their minds.
Yeah.
And so for me as a mother, that was a great concern of mine. And I said to myself, and this was some years ago, y'all. This was some years ago. The Most High had already been putting it on our hearts to do something, as it relates to our young people. And to me, this is a long time coming. This has been a long time coming. But that was really the spark that made me say, you know what, we're not going to change anybody's minds as a whole, right? As a whole, we're not going to change all of their minds, because it was prophesied that these other nations would have a burning in them, a perpetual hatred that was going to burn in them forever and ever, right? But one thing that we can do, we can change the narrative as it relates to some of our young black people who are out here doing the right thing, right? And we've got to be those who will stand up for righteousness. The Bible tells us to cry aloud and spare not, and lift up our voices like trumpets in Zion, and show our people their transgressions, right? It tells us to do that because we are surrounded by darkness as it relates to the black community and the world in general. There is a lot of darkness in the black community, a lot of sin, a lot of dysfunction. But we've got to draw a line of separation to say not all of our young people are like this.
Yes, we got to draw that line, It's really sad because I'm going to tell you something, right? Okay. The thing that's really... Okay, just listen to what I'm going to tell you here, right? So, you look at the news and you see some young black young man that did some crime, right? And then you look at the news, you see another one that did some crime, right? And when you look at them, you see them with long dreadlocks. And then I'm like, man,
I like to call them locks.
Locks, yeah.
Somebody else named them dreadlocks.
That's right, they're locks, right?
Yeah.
And so my two sons have, two of my sons have, of our sons have long locks, right? So we sit there and we say, well, man, now my sons don't dress like those guys that were in that thing, right? When I saw some of the news footage or whatever, right? And one time I came across a couple of guys just in the neighborhoods. They had long locks and were walking around like straight up thugs and acting like thugs and everything, right? And you sit there and you say, well, man, it's sad because just because my sons have locks, I would hate for somebody to look at them and think that they're like some of this other stuff that they see. But we as a people got to understand that when you go out and you do things, certain things, you're going to be viewed a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we got to get this thing under control, because we don't need our young black males to be portrayed or to be looked at like they criminals. You see, so all this criminal activity that we do see among our people, This stuff got to end. It got to stop.
And we've got to counter that.
Yeah, we got to counter
We
it.
have to put another narrative out there. It's not enough
right.
to me that's put out there on the positive end, right?
That's right.
And it's not that we're supposed to ignore the negative, because the scripture tells us to deal with those things, right? But at the same time, there's not enough, in my opinion, going out there for the young men to look at, right?
Yes.
So that's what this whole thing is about. And to Maria, we saw that did happen with one of your orders. For those who want to, we're going to talk about the book afterward, and what's going on with the project. But what we want to get into is what this whole project is all about. Black boy kings, rulers, and nobles. So I think the first thing that we want everybody to understand about this project is not just about black boys. Okay. Someone asked us, well, what about the girls? Okay. Like we stated, the young men are going to grow up to be the heads.
They're the heads, right?
Right. They're going to grow up to be the heads. And we know that the enemy is after all, right? After all of us. But when you deal with the head first, you can get the head in line, then our young people will have a better standing in the future when they do grow up, right? Mm-hmm. So just to give you all an idea of where we're going with this project.
Let me say this real quick before she go on. I want to say something. You see what my wife just said? Now watch this, right? Mm-hmm. So then, there's if a person wants to take someone out, right? And they look and they see that person in the distance and they want to take that person out, right? If they use a weapon, they know if they hit them in their arm, or if they hit them in their leg, right?
Come
or
on
their
now.
back.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, that person may make it, right?
Right.
But they know a head blow.
Yes.
See, a person can come at a man and hit him with a bat in his back, in his chest, in his arm, hit him just about anywhere, and he'll probably survive, right? But you hit him in the head with that bat, there's a good chance he ain't gonna make it.
That's right.
That's why the enemy goes for the head.
That's right. That's right. There you go. That's it right there, family. That's it right there. So where we're going with this is we want to empower young men. This is a book series. Right now, the first part is the making of majesty. Okay. This is part 1 of the book series, and to the sister who ordered it, and Lulu refunded it because there was a error in their file as relates to one of the fonts. Okay, but that has since been fixed, and we'll deal with all of that.
Right.
So you're able to go in and reorder the book. Because of that, their systems are so sensitive sometimes, and we chose a font that wasn't friendly with their system, so we had to change the whole font. But anyway, that's been taken care of. But this is not just the making of majesty. This is a whole series, and we're going to break down what we're going to be dealing with. And this, the whole series is going to be co-authored by Watchman and myself and others as well. We're going to co-author this together because there are so many of us that can contribute to what needs to happen in the black community as it relates to our young men first, our young sons, our young boys. That's why this is called Black Boy Kings. We want our young boys, before they become young men, to understand that there were black boy kings in history.
Right.
This perpetual youth that they try to keep young people in right now is ridiculous. Yes. And it's a strategy, y'all. They need to know that there were boy kings, right? And so this series, so far is only 10 parts to this series, and we're going to break it down. If the Most High wants us to continue beyond that, we will. But part 1 is the making of majesty. Part 2 is breaking the strongholds. And so the making of majesty, first we want to talk about that. That's to show the dream of the young boy that's in this story. Yeah. First, he's going to talk about his reality, and this is just a quick synopsis, y'all. He's talking about his reality and what he sees in the black community.
Yes.
What he sees happening, all of the stuff that's coming at young black boys and girls constantly, the things that they have to deal with.
Yes.
But then he's going to enter into a dream state. He's going to see something that he had never thought existed.
Right.
In his life, in this world, in this realm. He's going to see a community that's quite different. I'm not going to give a spoiler on this one. I was going to say his dream is a very majestic dream. But the dream was enough to where he was so blown away by what he saw in this dream, that all of the negative things that were thrown at him, he goes into detail about some of his experiences, some relatives' experience, what he's seen other little young black girls go through, young black boys, the images, what's happening in the hood, what they want him to be, what they're trying to get him to be, what he doesn't want to be, and how he doesn't want to be compared to this and that and that and this. This young boy is breaking it down in the storyline, just to give you all a bit of that, right? Okay, so part 2 is breaking the strongholds.
I want to talk to you about that. That breaking the strongholds is deep. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why it's so important that the strongholds got to be broken. I'm gonna tell you why. Because in many cases, these young black boys, when they're young and they're raised, they pick up some bad things. Okay, because everybody's not raised the same way that we raise our children. Okay. And so they pick up a lot of things in the school systems. Right. They pick up a lot of things in the neighborhood because of the environment that they're in. Okay? Now, I remember when I was young, and I'm going to tell you right now, okay, the environment that I grew up in. It's so wonderful that I didn't end up dead, shot, selling drugs, on drugs, right? Or in jail. It's so wonderful that didn't happen to, because everybody I knew, a lot of the friends I knew, this is what was going on in their lives. It was like some crazy vortex that was just pulling them down, you know. And everybody was going after the drug money, you know, and it was just crazy. And so thinking about a young black boy that's growing up, here he is, 8, 9 years old, and all he see is young men running around, you know, with Fila and Adidas gym shoes on, with gold chains on, beepers in their pocket. This is how it was back in those days. And so they looking like, man, I want to be like him, man. That's so cool. And so breaking those strongholds got to be broken, because this eye candy as it relates to thug life is ridiculous. It's so attractive to the young black male. It's attractive. They all want to look alike. There's no individuality.
Right.
You understand? They want to look like, I want to look like him. They see him with his pants out. I want my pants out. I want this. I want that. So everybody want to look alike. Everybody want to be alike.
Right. And so breaking the strongholds, they're going to need help, y'all.
Yeah, they're going to need help.
I'm going to read a little bit from the book as well, but they're going to need help. And that help has to come from the parents, the communities, the clergy, anyone who cares. So somebody in the chat made a point. They said we have to forget that there are some sellouts among us who don't even care.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't deal with them.
Yeah.
Those who don't care about what happens with our young people, we can't concentrate on them, because get this, as we all age, the young generation that we see right now, they are going to be the adults. They're going to be the head. And so we cannot let the only narrative out there be the thug culture or the homosexual culture, the deviant culture. That we can't let that be the only thing that's getting in the ears of our young people. We have got to counter that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so just to give you all a little bit of what this young man in the book from the storyline is thinking, I'm going to read page 13. Some of you may have already received your books, those of you who have ordered. But this is coming, and I want to explain something too. The book, you will notice certain words are underlined. That's very intentional. Certain words are underlined. What we are doing with that, we have words underlined that are words that you would say, well, those words go over young people's heads. You would think that those words go over their heads. Okay, these are big words, right? That a young boy may not understand.
Yes.
Okay, but we did that intentionally, because we're going to talk about this is going to be an educational tool as well. This is not just about a book for them to read. Thank you. I forgot about the lights. But this is going to be an educational tool as well. We are developing a whole curriculum around what's going on in the hood, what our young people need to overcome, what they need to fight. So when you see those large words, that's done intentionally. We're not going to just leave them hanging. And of course, yes, Kaya, we're going to be dealing with that as well.
Yes.
In one of our, you put in there homosexuality. Let me finish going through the titles of the series, okay? And then we're going to back up and go back through them. But part 2 is breaking the strongholds. And then part 3 is ruling your environment from within. Okay.
Yes.
Majestic leaders of the past. Okay. The next one after that is, are you training to be a warrior or a thug? Okay. The next one after that is, are you training to be a man or a brute beast? After that, are you meant to be masculine or feminine? Okay. After that, do you nurture ingenuity or ineptitude? Okay. Next one after that is, are you weak or strong? After that, last but not least, unless the Most High says different, nobility is our greatest strength. So that's what the series is going to be, family.
Yes.
In this series, we are going to be educating our future heads. Okay. Spirituality, natural, in every sense of the word, we're going to be educating them. Okay.
Yes.
We'll get back to breaking the strongholds in just a moment. But I wanted to read page 13 so you all can get an idea of how this young man in this storyline thinks. He says sometimes it can be a little frustrating to little boys when they want to be just happy, but things in their everyday lives trying to stop it. The problem is that it seems as though the whole world has invested stock in my failures before I even get a chance to get a running start. They automatically think that I don't understand something, or that I'm incapable of comprehending words that were intentionally meant to fly over my head. That's why we're putting certain words in this book, family, because we're going to help them understand.
Right.
And they say concepts are presented in a way that seems to be meant for my immediate failure. Now, keep in mind, this is a little boy talking. He says, if I only had someone who cared enough to help me leap over these hurdles, instead of simply telling me that they are there or that they exist, okay, without a plan to conquer them. So this is a young man saying, look, I need people to care. This is a very important problem. He said, I need somebody to care enough to help me leap over the hurdles. That's why I wanted to point out the statement that someone made when they said, we have to remember that there are some people in our community who don't care. Okay, so we're not even trying to reach those people, because if you don't care, you're already a person who is the walking dead, because you don't care about your own community. So this young man has said, if someone can just simply care, and instead of just telling me that the hurdles exist, instead of just telling me they exist, can you help me get over them? Can somebody help me get over them?
Wow.
Right? He says, I grow tired sometimes trying to figure it out, but there's just something in me that refuses to give up. So this is a strong young man. He says, I get tired, y'all, but I don't want to give up. He said, what is that something? He says, is it a divine unction or simply a built-in drive or ambition I received at birth? Now, some young people have that. Some young people, they grow up in certain obstacles, surrounded by certain obstacles, but they're like, look, you know what? I can't go out like this. I got to do more to help myself, even if I'm surrounded by people who don't care. There are some young people who have that unction, but for those who don't have that unction, we have got to be the ones to help put that unction in them.
Yes.
Okay? He says, whatever it is, I don't want to just accept the narrative that is shown to me. I want to strive to get out of this state of mind that something is trying to force on me. So something is trying to force a state of mind on all of our young people. And not all of them are going to be as strong as the young man in this book. Right? He wants help, and he's saying, look, I'm asking for it. In the book, you're going to see where the young man is asking for help. He's going to tell you what he's seen, what he's heard, what has come at him, what has come at his brothers and sisters and things of that nature. And he's going to say, look, I want help.
Wow. I want help. You know what? It's when I listen to the words of this book, I listen to the words of the young man that's in this book. We got to do something, y'all.
We have to help our young people.
We have to help our young people, because you see what's going on, right?
Yes, we see.
Every generation, the young male in his environment gets worse and worse every generation. You know, it's different than it was in my generation. It's getting worse and worse. I was hearing things. I told this testimony before when I was at a store, and this young man, he couldn't have been no more than about, I want to say 21, 22 years old, when he was sitting back bragging about how much he wanted to go back to jail. How he just wanted to go back. And he said, I'm going to try to figure out what I could do to go back. And I thought I was hearing things. He's a young black male, had dreadlocks in his head, and he was saying this in front of some Gentiles. And I was sitting there just scratching my head like, oh, man. You know, and they were looking at him like he was crazy. You know, I said, oh, my goodness, you know. And so we got to help our young men. We got to break them away from this thing. This we got to help them. They need help. They just can't. Let me tell you something, right? Once an environment gets inside of a person, you just can't expect that person to just turn that thing off once they turn it on.
Right.
Sometimes they need help. Sometimes they need the word of the Most High. Sometimes they need an older person to grab them and say, come on, that ain't the way to go.
Right.
You've been taught wrong about this. What you're doing to do in your life is wrong, right? So you need to come away from this, right? So ruling, I like the chapter, ruling your environment from within. Now, you take a young person, right? Now, I'm gonna tell you, I can tell you pretty much about my growing up when I was a young man. When I graduated from high school, already in high school, everybody was doing all kinds of stuff in high school. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I saw some things they were doing in high school. That stuff didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
You know, I said, wait a minute, now this doing drugs and all of this crazy stuff they were doing. I said, nah, I ain't into that, dude.
Yeah.
I had friends of mine that were smoking weed that were close friends of mine. I didn't want to do it. Right. I said, man, how come you don't want to do it? I said, I don't want to do it, man. He said, well, why not, man? You should try it. I said, why I got to try it? He said, man, you ain't being a good friend. So I said, I'm your friend if I try something that I don't want to do, right? You know, and so I was pretty strong on the drug thing. I didn't want to do that stuff. I didn't want to sell drugs. I didn't want to use drugs. And I had my reasons why, and I don't want to go into the details, but it was people that I saw what they were going through. I didn't want that kind of life.
Yeah.
So I backed away from that thing, though, right? But when I was young, when I got older, 17, 18 years old, and I graduated from high school, I didn't go to college right away. I just laid back. You know, I said, I'm going to lay back for 6 months or whatever, try to chill. And I did. I just chilled pretty much. But I had a chance to really watch a lot of things that were going on in the neighborhood with my friends and things like that. And I said, man, so I ended up going to this little college, you know, and started trying to go to a trade. So I tried to do something because I saw how wasting my time wasn't a good thing, right? But it was study trying to pull me in. Because sometimes I go over a friend's house and they were always either drinking or smoking or doing something, right? And I was like, man, I can't be a part of this. So I had my own individuality. And then once I ended up becoming saved, that made a huge difference. Then I came across adult males that were saved, and they had come out of these lies, and they had turned their life around, and they were together, and I could listen to these young men tell me, hey man, that ain't the way to go. Come on, man, we gonna show you. You know, come on, man, this is what you need to do. And I was like, wow, it was empowering.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So this is what we got to do. We got to empower our young men so that they can be the rulers of their environment.
Exactly.
Like a king. Hallelujah.
Exactly. Very, very well put, baby, because, you know, we all can't sit back and twiddle our thumbs and say, well, hopefully they'll get it together.
Yes.
It kind of reminds me of a dream that I had a long, long time ago about a burning house, you see?
Yes.
About a burning house.
You wanted all that text in there?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
About a burning house, and the parents just sitting there watch the house burn. Said, I hope the kids know that the house is on fire, you know, just sitting out watching.
Wow.
You know, and it's like the black community as a whole. This is why we say code red and code blue in the black community. The black community as a whole, we sometimes act like we just don't get it. We can't afford to sit by and watch our young people just continue to spiral downward, right? So I like what Watchman was saying about individuality. That's something that has to be taught to some young people, because sometimes peer pressure is so thick and heavy. You have no idea what young people struggle through to try to overcome peer pressure. Notice it's pressure. It's some pressure being applied to them.
Yeah.
And if they can't deal with it, if we're not equipping them with what they need to deal with it, some of them ain't going to be able to stand, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to read another segment on page 27. The young man had expressed his dream about this place that he went to, where all the black people were totally different. There was an environment there where you looked around, everything was quite different. Okay, I'm not going to get into all of it, but it was just amazing. Okay, and he noticed how the men were, how the women were, how the children were, the respect, the nobility, and the majesty. He noticed all of that, right? But something happened in the dream, and this was put in the book intentionally so you all can get a sense of what our young people need and what they expect.
Yes.
Okay, so he says, after all of the good things that happened in the dream, he says, also in the dream, something very noteworthy happened. I was accosted by a group of men who had wolf-like characteristics. So the image on this, you'll see men standing there with the head of a wolf, right? And the young boy said, they were very fierce in countenance and brutal in nature. He says he was struck by fear at their very appearance and wanted to run, but was frozen where he stood. They looked as if they were ready to pounce on me and devour me. This is very spiritual, y'all. Pay attention. He says, this really caught me off guard because I was not expecting something like this to happen in a place like where I was in my dream. But then something else started to happen. He says, moments after they surrounded me, the nobles and warriors of the land surrounded them. I suddenly felt safety and security as two of the nobles from the group came and grabbed my arms and walked me through the crowd of wolf-like men. They kindly but swiftly walked me to a place of security. Their appearance and demeanor were enough to cause the wolf-like men to back down and retreat. There also appeared to be a crowd of people who stood and watched as all of this unfolded, as if they too were ready to intervene on my behalf if the wolf-like men persisted with their pursuit of me. It was unlike anything I had ever seen or imagined in real life.
You know what that reminded me of? It's kind of amazing. It reminded me of The Equalizer. I don't know if you all saw the movie with Denzel Washington. The Equalizer. There's a scene where his young boy, he was trying to help this young boy. And this young boy was was at his friend's place, and they had guns on the table and drugs and all stuff. He was sitting up there. You could tell he was out of place. He was sitting there like this here, and one was telling him, he said, "Hey man, you gonna have to do this, man. Here, get this gun, man. You gonna have to do this." And he was sitting back. He was like, he was looking all like man. And then the other guy said something. He leaned over. Yeah. He was like, they were pulling on him, so he's like, put the gun in his hand. Come on, you gonna have to do this. And then when the Equalizer went up in that place, took their guns, knocked them all down, did what he did, got that boy up out of there. He said, "Come on up out of here, man. What are you in there with these guys for?" That's what it reminded me of.
Yes.
But I'm gonna tell you something, right? Oh my goodness. Our young men are in this situation that's written in this book.
Right.
And they need some strong like men that's going to come and say, "Come on, no, you ain't going down that route no more. You ain't going in this direction. You don't need to be hanging around them." You know, man, I remember growing up, my mother was a very strong woman as it relates to certain things, you know. And I remember she would tell me, "You don't need to be hanging around that person over there. You don't need to be over here. You need to stop going over there." I mean, my mom was telling me all the time, right? And there were times I didn't listen to her, right? But I remember one particular time my mother said something, told me not to go around someone. And she told me some things. I said, no way, Mama. But she was right.
Yes.
And I came back to, I said, Mama, you were right. I said, man. The number of times I could have got caught up in some junk, literally caught up. I'm telling you, I thank the Most High that He got me through them early years. Up to I received the Holy Spirit when I was 22.
Yes.
But I'm so glad He got me to that point, because I know what the youth are going through. The peer pressure is ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
They like strong brute beasts, like wolves, just like in the book here.
Yes.
Wolves.
Yes, exactly. And so, listen, family, this, again, like Watchman said, this is a movement for us. We have young sons. Many of you have young sons, grandchildren. Some of you have adult sons. And your adult sons may have sons, right? And so someone needs to step up to the plate. We're asking everyone to step up to the plate, and we all have to intervene on what we see happening in the community as it relates to our children. If you save the head, the future heads, our young men, you will save the women. You will save the young women. You will save the girls. If you save the head. And so basically this project is going to be about dealing with our young men, giving them another narrative, so that they don't no longer have to look at the Bumpy Johnsons of the world as the heroes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't have to just look at all the thugs of the world and say, that's what I aspire to be to. We got to give them something else to look at. And so they don't have to look to the celebrities, okay? Yeah. And the athletes.
The rappers.
Right. We have to give them something else. This is why it's very important that they know that there were some black boy kings.
Yes.
We're going to talk about some of those black boy kings in this series, right? And so that these young men can know and understand that we are not just what you see in the streets.
Right.
Right? There is another side to so-called black people. There's more to us than just what the streets tell us, what the movies tell us, what people tell us, the curses that people have placed on us, right? Or spoken on us.
Yes.
There's more to us than that. And so we are going to be completing a whole complete educational package concerning this narrative and so many others, not just this, but so many other things. We think it's very important that our children are educated, not just in the public school, because some people, we understand that not everyone has the option to homeschool their children in its entirety. But I would say this, if your children do have to go to public school, that's not to say that you don't have a responsibility at home to educate them as well. And so we're developing a complete educational package. Academic, spiritual, and natural things will be talked about. We're going to even talk about anger management, and conflict resolution. Because a lot of our young people, they just don't understand how to deal with those kinds of things, and this is why they end up in situations where they are in the streets having shootouts with one another. Because nobody is teaching them how to pipe it down, how to diffuse a situation.
No one has dealt with them at an early age about their anger issues. Let me tell you something. Their kids have anger issues at an early age. You can see it at an early age. You know, children walking around angry, looking like they mad and upset all the time. It's like you ain't nothing but 8 years old and you walk around looking like you're mad and upset all the time. I've seen children like this, right? 9, 10 years old and they just angry and upset all the time. You know, he said, "What's the matter, young man? What's going on? What you looking so angry for?" You know, and they never deal with those issues, and when they get older, it just gets worse. You know, it just gets worse. You know, so anger management is a huge one. You know, to have to tackle in the youth. You know, to deal with their anger issues, learning how to be calm. You know, and I just got to tell you that it's a tall order. You know. It's a tall order, but we got to do this. We got to try to come together and try to deal with these young people, deal with them right, you know, and try to cause them to go down the right road. Now, understand what I'm talking about. Once you then became an adult, you an adult. It's once they're older, it takes y'all sometimes to break these adults. And once they get to be 20 years old, 21 years old, they pretty much set in their ways. They ain't trying to change, and they just. You know what I mean? But
in some cases.
In some cases, in some cases. That's why I say it takes Yah. Yah has to take them through some things to make them change their mind, because that's what happened to me. I was 21 years old. I had been through enough little things to make me give my life to Yah. Been at gunpoint. had gun pointed at me a couple of times, you know, had bullets whisking by. I've been through that, you know, and so those were the things that made me say give my life to Yah, because I said, you know what, enough is enough. If I remain just going down this other path here, I'm gonna end up dead, you know, because it was just, that's how it was. I was working a job, and a guy put a gun to my head, and I knew then. I said, you know what, even trying to live right,
yes,
outside of the Most High ain't working. So I felt like the Most High was calling me to give my life to Him. You know, and that's what did it. That last incident did it for me. I did a gun in my head. I said, you know what? I prayed then. I said, if you get me out of this one, I promise you, I won't straddle the fence. I give my life completely to you. But I was 21 years old when that happened. I was 22. I just turned 22. And so basically what I'm trying to say is, but the young men, a lot of them can still be reached because they're young. They're young boys. You know, some of the teenagers, they can still be reached.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And if you just so happen to be in your 20s and you've had a rough patch already in your life, or 30s or 40s, wherever you are, if you can be reached, come on now. If you can be reached, soften your heart. Harden not your heart as it was in the provocation, but the goal is to definitely try to reach a lot of our young men before so much of the turmoil has entered into their lives, because they are surrounded by it. They see it, right? They see it with older brothers or cousins or uncles, or sometimes their father, grandfather. They are seeing it, and so we can't just think that they're going to just look at it and not be affected by it. We have to somehow, as a community of people, we have to deal with this stuff, right? It is our job. It is the job of believers, those in our community, to understand that the battle we're in, to help our young men, we have to help them to become future leaders. We have to do it.
Yes, we have to do it.
We can't look to the world. We can't look to the school system. Do you really think that the school system wants to help young black males to become future leaders? Do you think that the system or the school system want to help them to be good husbands and good leaders and good heads of house? Anybody think that?
They in the school system doing all kind of ill.
Raise your hand if you think that the school system is there to help them to become good men. They're not there for that purpose. As a matter of fact, I got something I could say about that, but I'm going to stay on topic right now. I'm going to stay on topic right now. So one of our goals, we know that in order to make them or help them to become effective leaders, they're going to need the help of the community, right? Our overall goal is to get people to see that our help is not coming from outside of us.
Right.
Okay? It's not coming from outside of us, but that the Most High has laid the charge on all of us. He's put it in our hands as the children of Yah to get our young people on the right path. That charge has been laid on us. Okay? It's not the job of the community. It's not the job of the world. It is our job, right? Keeping in mind that our young people are out here. We see what's happening. Even some of our innocent young people are dying in the streets like dogs. Because too many of us are saying, well, you know what, I'm going to only deal with what's going on my side of town or in my family or on my block. I'm only going to deal with that. We have to go above and beyond that. Because what we are doing is not working. So our goal is to educate young men, young women. You see, if you educate the young men, the young women are going to follow, because they are going to be the wives of the future heads.
I like what my wife said. This stuff is spilling over. Like she said, you got young children that are good young children. Some trying to go to school. Some trying to do good things right. Some who do have their head on right. Their minds on right. And they're trying to go down the right path, but the violence is spewing over to them, right? The crazy stuff is spewing over to them. This is why we can't look at our own and say, you know what? It kind of remind me of what's her name's mother, Sandra Bland's mother, who said when she saw the Trayvon Martin stuff on, she just never thought nothing about it, right? Never paid it no mind. She said, but when it happened to her own daughter, then her eyes got open.
Yes.
We don't need to wait until some of this stuff spew over into our lives and say, well, my life is fine. My children are doing good. I'm raising mine, right? Okay, that's good that you're doing that, but we have to do things to try to affect the environment that the other children are in. Right? We may have pulled our children out of certain environments, but those environments still exist out there. And there's still children out there in these environments that need help.
Exactly. One thing that I pointed out in the previous broadcast that I did is that, okay, there was a young man who had, he was forming his family, doing all that he needed to do for his wife, or his at the time they were engaged, but his future wife and their children. He was trying to do the right thing by his family, but one of those who was left to his own devices in the neighborhood, it was another black man that took his life. This is what we got to understand. We can sit back and say, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me all we want. But the spillover effect happens in the black community too. Because enough of us are not dealing with these things. Now, many have tried things in the community. You throw up the YMCAs and things of that nature. But I thought about this. I said, okay, so we think we have to entertain them out of, the situations they're in. To me, it all boils down to education and showing them the truth of the matter as it relates to the Most High, spirituality, and living in this natural world. We can't just deal with getting them off the street so they can have fun for a few hours.
The YMCA ain't nothing but a place where the thugs are going to go to hang out, because I used to go to them. And I know they'll come right up in there too. You know what I'm saying? It ain't no different, So those things don't help. They need leaders. They need young males especially need to step up to the bat, and we need to hit some home runs. We need to step up to the plate and get things straight, and try to help some of these young men,
That is our job.
Yes.
That is our job as a community.
Yes.
Young men need our help, and that's the mothers, the fathers, the uncles, the aunts, grandparents, you see, the community, the leadership, the clergy, whoever has a zeal to help our young people, those who don't want to ignore this, because there are a lot of people who think that if we just ignore it, it'll all vanish away. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. It's not going to vanish away because we ignore it. We need to help our young people to become settled in our communities, and it's going to take others who care enough about them to make this happen. That's what it's going to take. And so in the future, we would like to interview some young men, some fathers, leaders, those of you who see the need to bring the next generation out of this pit that they're in. If you see the need to bring the next generation out of the pit that they're in, we want this to be as ongoing as the Most High would have us to do it. But if you see the need to help bring the young men out of this pit that they're in, we want to interview young men, fathers, leaders, whatever, whomever, mothers who are raising sons. We want our people to come together to help our children. Like I said before, when I saw that man looking at my boys like that, of course that mother bear syndrome happened. I stood up and I was looking this man in his eye, like their mother is here. Okay, whatever you got going on in your mind about my boys, you better keep it at bay. And so any of us who feel that it's important enough to protect our children and to train them up, this is what this is for, family.
You young men out there, I want to tell you something. You have no idea how powerful you could be. You positive young men out there, those that are positive role models, you have no idea how powerful it is. In most cases, you don't have to pull a young man under your wing and try to say anything to him. In most cases, if you live that positive role, I'm going to tell you why I say that, right? My son, on his job, just him living his life like he lives it, and being strong like he is, have been affecting young males around him.
On his job.
And some of them been coming up to him, and he been witnessing to him, and so they coming to him. He ain't reaching out to them. They're coming to him. And this is a powerful thing. You get what I'm saying? Because a young black man, when you live your life a certain way, and you're strong, and you strong about it, right? Other ones are gonna see it. And let me tell you something. He have told me the number of times a certain young man that he know that he worked with have changed their life. Some of them have stopped drinking. Some of them have stopped hanging out at clubs. Some of them have stopped doing a lot of things, all because they have been talking to him.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is. It's amazing.
It's amazing. And some of them are telling me, say, man, I had to really listen to you on some things,
Mm-hmm.
Young men is older than him. You hear what I'm saying?
Now, there's someone in the chat on the Watchmen Reports live chat feed that's saying that all you need to do is just teach them about the Most High. Okay, so that sounds very noble on the surface.
Right.
You can't just teach young people about the Most High, right? You have to teach them how to live and navigate in this world by the strength of the Most High. The scripture tells us to train them up in the way that they should go. We have to teach them how to deal with things from a natural and a spiritual standpoint.
Right.
That's what this is about. This is not just a natural thing. We're not just trying to teach them how to avoid this and how to avoid that and how to stand up here and stand up there. We're not just trying to educate them in academics. This is a whole spiritual thing that we're doing, and within that spiritual aspect of things, we have got to show them how to navigate through this world.
That's right.
We've got to show them how to deal. So I can sit back and tell them, you just serve the Most High, serve the Most High, serve the Most High. In teaching them how to serve the Most High, you have to break it down into categories, right? Categories meaning how to guard your mind, how to put on the whole armor, and all of that means that you have to teach them what's happening in the world too.
I'm gonna tell you
you can't just tell them to just open up the book, read the Bible, and serve the Most High. Been there, done that. A lot of Christians have done that, right? But you also have to tell them about the fiery darts of the wicked, right?
That's right.
If you are not telling your young sons that there's a pool to make you a homosexual, or there's a pool to cause you to be promiscuous, if you're not dealing with those topics too, and you're just trying to tell them to open up the Bible and read, you ain't doing nothing at all.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you something right now, right? You hear what I say when I tell you this, right? There's a lot of religious people out here who have children, and their children, once they got older, just went right out here in the world and did all kinds of stuff. And they were religious. They had the scriptures, right? They had the word of Yah sitting right there in their face. It was even being taught it in Sunday school.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that stuff didn't just stand up. Let me tell you something. I was one of those children who went to Sunday school as a child.
Yes.
But when I got 15, 16 years old, got in high school, let me tell you, that stuff didn't do me a bit of good.
Right.
You know? Eventually I had to say, okay, if I don't get a hold of myself, this stuff gonna pull me down.
Right.
You know? I had to get a hold of some things, you know?
Right.
So it's much more to it than just saying, hey, just teach them the word. Just teach them the word. It's much more to it. It goes beyond just teaching them the scriptures.
Right.
Okay? Because there's life situations that they're going to be in that ain't in the scriptures.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? There's life situations. Right? Yeah, we know the scripture says that a man ain't supposed to be with another man, or homosexuality. We know the scripture teaches against that, right? But then you take this young boy and you put him in the wrong environment. He's growing up in the wrong environment. He don't know what the words say. Many of these men, watch this, right? Many of these people out here that are living these kind of lifestyles, homosexual, lesbian lifestyles, they know what the words say. Many of them know that it's an abomination. They know what the words say.
Right.
Don't they? Right?
Exactly.
They know it, but they still went down that road anyway.
Right. So it's far deeper than just teaching them the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay? It's far deeper than teaching them the Bible, because a lot of people can read the Bible without understanding. If you don't have understanding, if you don't understand how spirits move and how they operate, how they infiltrate the mind. See, a lot of people give you a surface knowledge of scripture, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to our children, we can no longer afford to just give them a surface knowledge. We have to understand, help them to understand that for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of darkness of this world, against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. That stuff won't go over a child's head if you explain it to them, if you teach it to them, right? And so some people just tell her, hey, little Timmy, just go in there and read Psalms 35. Go in there and read the whole book of Psalms 119. That you got to go above and beyond that, right? So that's what we mean. This is a whole process, family. This is a whole process that takes wisdom, understanding, knowledge. It takes time, and it takes effort. And it takes an unction in your spirit. If you don't have an unction to help the young people pray and ask the Most High for it, because they are the future generation, right? And if we don't prepare them now, they will not make it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will not make it.
They won't make it.
So we're going to continue to come before you all with this project, because it's going to be a blessing to those who see the need to save the next generation.
Yes.
As some of you have stated in the chat, some just don't care.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to care. We get that. But for those who do care, we are calling on you to be a part of this, because our young people need us.
Yes.
They need us. We don't need to keep on watching the news telling us another one done died in the street, this one done died, this one done been shot, this one been killed, this one is going through this one is going through that. We don't need to keep watching the news and say, oh, what a shame. What a shame. Another one. What can we do to combat this, even in our own communities?
Yes.
Because the young man in this book, he even talks about how the thugs are trying to pull on him, and he don't want to go in that direction, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get our young people? Because right now it seems like a lot of black people are dealing with only what's happening, what other nations are doing to us, right? Our young people need to know how to deal with those who look just like them, who are trying to get them to do something and be up to no good. How do they combat that? How do they deal with that?
Yeah.
Right? These are the things that are being talked about. And as we go on with this series, I know it's going to get more and more powerful, because there are going to be many minds coming together on this. I pray that the Most High sends us the right people who want to, be a part of this, right? Many minds come together as we write this, as we develop the educational materials, because again, education goes above and beyond what they're going to learn in just regular schools. It goes above and beyond that. So,
absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We are approaching the eve of Shabbat, so we gotta kind of wrap things up.
Yes.
We just wanted to come before you.
Yes, and I just thank the Most High for putting this on that. He actually, this is something that he put on my wife's heart to do this book. When he first put it on her heart, I was like, wow. And then when she started expounding more and more, I was like, wow. Now it got me excited. I want to be a part of this thing and help her push what the Most High put on her heart to do. And this is a powerful thing, And so watch this, right? Let me say this here real quickly, all right? So you see how sometimes you hear us, we come against some of the negative stuff we see that's going on with our young black males, right? Well, this alone should tell you is a reason why we come against it like we do, why we speak out against it like we do. It's not that we always coming against them. We want to shake their minds and make them understand what's going on and how they need to step up as young men and be men in society and not be boys with toys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Boys with toys.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, hey, on that note, we're going to say...
Well, I want to say this, too. Be men in society, and also that pool of trying to get them to be have deviant sexual lifestyles.
Yes.
We going to touch on everything, y'all.
We're going to hit on all of that stuff.
We're going to touch on all of it, because, listen, we can't tiptoe around subjects and say, well, I don't want my kids to really know about the thugs, because they need to understand what they are up against out here, or what their cousin is up against. How can they be a light if you don't train them up, if you don't teach them? Your child, like my husband pointed out about our oldest son, Elijah, in the workplace, he is such a bright light shining, that when we talk to this young man, I just feel so happy of what the Most High has had us put in him, right? Yes. And so he is able to reach other young men who are going through things. Yes. I mean, one thing that they were trying to tease him about being a virgin. Our son is a proud virgin, right? Yes. He's like, look, I'm waiting till I get married. That's what I want to do. And so when they try to tease him about it, he's like, man, just because you out here getting STDs and that's what that you think you a man because you out here doing all of that. He said that don't make you a man because you slept with a woman. Right. So can somebody show me anywhere in the Bible or any text that says you become a man once you've slept with a woman? Yeah, I mean, Yahushua was a man, wasn't he? Was Yahushua a man, the one who the world calls Jesus? Was he a man, right? Right? Wait a minute, 144,000 men, right? Gonna all be virgins, right? Right. And so
we do have to put that individuality in our young men, because I remember some of the things that young people would say to me, young guys would say to me when I was growing up, trying to push something on you, trying to say this and say that, and I had a way of countering it. That you have to have a certain way of countering. You have to be a strong individual. Growing up, sometimes you have to put that in these young men. You know, I remember one time when I was growing up, when I was young, I'm walking down the street and these two guys walking behind me, and they say, "Hey man, he's switching." And I look back at him, I said, "Well, why are you looking at me down there, right?" I said, "What's wrong with you that you looking at me?" Right? That's what I mean by you have to be a strong individual. I didn't break down. Oh man, no, I'm not. No, I said, no. What's wrong with you? Tell me I'm switching. You know what I'm saying? I was a young boy. I wasn't nothing but probably about 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, on my way to school. You get what I'm saying? All I'm saying is that peer pressure is strong out here with the young people. It's strong. Is always trying to convert them and turn them into thugs, turn them into players, turn them into homosexuals, turn them into some brute beast, some thug. You know, it's always trying to turn them into these things. And so we got to turn this thing around so that these young boys will grow up and be men.
Absolutely.
You know?
For those of you who are interested in purchasing the book, some have asked. We're going to put the link in the description area below so that you will be able to get the book. But keep in mind, this is going to be a series. This is only part one, the making of majesty. Part 2 of this series is breaking the strongholds. Now, I don't know which part is going to be the most powerful. I don't know. You know, but I already know that we're going to put a lot into breaking the strongholds, because that's where the battle begins, in the mind.
Yes.
We've got to be able to reach our young men in their thoughts, because the world is already pulling on them.
Yes.
The media, everything. Just imagine being in the middle of a battle. In the middle of a battle, our young people are literally, if you can imagine it, they are literally in a battle. And if you can't see how strong the pull of the world is, you won't be able to help them.
Right.
So breaking the stronghold, that's going to be part 2 of this series. Okay, part 2 of the series. And we pray that the Most High would anoint our minds, those who are going to participate, anoint our minds, our thoughts, our fingers, everything that we do in this project. We pray that the Most High would bring his anointing on this project, and that some young men's lives will be saved, because they are the future heads. Yeah,
I want to say this too. I love that breaking the stronghold part, and I love one after it too. They talk about individuality and stuff. But I'm gonna tell you something that it's so important that we put the right thing in our young youth. You know, it's very important. You know, because they will always try to say things and label things on young black males that's trying to grow up and be right. You know, I remember one time they call him a mama's boy. You know, you just a mama's boy. Oh, why? Because he's not out being a thug. So he ain't out trying to slit nobody's throat for their gym shoes. You a mama's boy. You get what I'm saying? So you those are some of the terms I've had called on me when I was a young fella, trying to get me to be harder out in the street and everything, right? And I'm like, no. I'm not gonna be out here acting all crazy because y'all are. You know, but I just want to bring that up, because those are some of the things that we got to teach our young men, young boys, how to understand, how to be as it relates to people saying certain things against them or whatever. Call this.
How not to let it get to them up here.
Exactly.
Breaking the strongholds. So I'm going to read through the 10 titles that we're going to be covering, unless Yah says different, and then we're going to close this out, family. But part 1 is the making of majesty. Book 2 of the series is breaking the strongholds. Book 3 is ruling your environment from within. The next one is majestic leaders of the past.
Yes.
The next book is going to be, are you training to be a warrior or a thug? The next one is, are you training to be a man or a brute beast? Okay. Now, keep in mind, y'all, these are titles. These are books that are for young men to read.
Yes.
Our goal is to empower them and encourage them, right? So we got to keep it very real when we bring these topics to them, because what they are facing is very real. The next one, are you meant to be masculine or feminine? So we're going to be talking about that that spirit of homosexuality that is being pushed on them, right? The next one is, do you nurture ingenuity or ineptitude, right? These are the things we're going to be talking about in this series. The next one is, are you weak or strong? Okay? Mm-hmm. Talking to our young men. Last but not least, nobility is our greatest strength. So these are the titles of this book series that we're going to be bringing out. These are the titles, family.
Yes.
And we pray again that the Most High would anoint this work, because our sons, they need us. If we can help our sons, we are absolutely, certainly going to help our daughters. Mm-hmm. Because our daughters are going to need some proper future leaders and heads of households.
Yes, absolutely. 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 Mm-hmm. On that note, family, this is Shabbat evening that we're coming into, so we want you all to I know some of you are preparing and getting ready. Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. And so we just want to say
shalom until tomorrow,
yes.
Yah willing, when we join you again with our live Shabbat broadcast.
Yes. Shalom, family.
Shalom. We hope you liked today's topic. Please leave your comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, share it like this video, and with that, we're out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.